At the beginning of the movie, we are shown a couple who are vacationing in a beachfront house. The young man is named Randall and his girlfriend Emily. From their conversation, we know that this house is Randall's father's house, which is currently empty. Randall deliberately invited Emily to this house to be alone. After arriving, they immediately went upstairs. After that, Emily asks permission to go to the bathroom downstairs for a while. After finishing, Emily found a lot of drugs behind the sink mirror. Emily, who was curious about the contents of the house, went straight to the kitchen. From what Emily saw in the kitchen, it could be concluded that this house was not really empty. As she looked around, suddenly someone entered the house. Quick as a flash, Emily hid. Then Emily sneaked up so as not to be noticed by the mysterious person. It was seen that the person was sitting at the dining table while doing something. Emily, who felt scared, immediately went upstairs and told Randall. Randall was also confused. Why could there be people in this house? They both went down to check the situation below, but the mysterious person was no longer at the table. Apparently, the mysterious person was hiding and looked scared. Randall immediately asked the woman what she was doing in this house. Hearing Randall's question, the woman said that her friend said no one would come here. As it turns out, the friend she was referring to was Randall's father. The woman admitted that she had been friends with Randall's father for a long time. She also introduced herself as Jane. Then suddenly came a man who turned out to be Jane's husband, who had just arrived. The man's name was Mitch. Mitch also said that he was his father's workmate since 20 years ago. In the end, the four of them introduced themselves and planned to have a barbecue tonight. In the evening, they were at the dining table drinking and talking. Then they went to the balcony of the house to chat some more. Soon, a lot of things were blowing in the wind and sticking to the trees. Emily, who understood this, said that it was all microbes spread by the wind. Jane, who had never seen it before, was interested in going down to see the trees. In his drunken state, Mitch allows Jane to just leave. Meanwhile, Randall, who is also drunk, plans to play music in the house. At once, Jane left the house. While on the balcony, Emily and Mitch are still talking. Until one moment, Mitch was curious what Jane was doing down there. Emily also entered the house to see Randall, who was lying down because he was drunk. With a sense of panic, Mitch decided to go looking for Jane. On the other hand, Jane, who saw the trees, felt interested in the microbes. Jane even held the microbes. As a result, some of the microbes stuck to Jane's palms. Jane begins to feel congested and coughs. Meanwhile, inside the house, there was only Randall and Emily. Emily also smells a foul odor coming from outside. When Emily wanted to go out, she saw a thick fog. Finally, Emily did not go out and stayed at home. The stench made Emily even more dizzy and disoriented to the point that she fainted. Then Emily realized that the house was very dark. Not long after, she heard the sound of Jane vomiting from the bathroom. When Emily approached the bathroom, Mitch closed the door. Morning came. Emily woke up in the room with Randall. Later, Emily tells him that last night was a complete mess. Jane vomited, and Mitch didn't look happy. After that, Emily walked downstairs and saw Jane, who was already sitting at the dining table. Emily called out to Jane as she walked over to her, but Jane didn't speak a word. When she was beside her, Emily saw that Jane's face was peeling and drier than usual. Then, Emily asked about her condition and inquired about Mitch's whereabouts. Hearing the question, Jane looked dazed and couldn't speak. She also found it difficult to walk. Then Jane walked upstairs and ran into Randall. Randall, who greeted Jane, was not answered at all. Here it seems that the situation has gotten stranger since last night. Then they went to look for and shout Mitch's name as much as they could, but Mitch didn't come. Finally, the two of them lay on the beach while waiting for Mitch's arrival. When it was late afternoon, Randall suddenly felt a tremendous stomachache. Randall told Emily that he would return home to defecate. While Emily was lying down, Mitch suddenly came out of nowhere. Mitch told her that he really loved Jane. He also said, "You will always care about the people you love until they cease to be normal." Emily also asked Mitch, "How was Jane last night?" But Mitch did not answer Emily's question and instead said that he would swim at this beautiful beach. Immediately, Mitch walked into the seawater to swim, but after paying attention, Mitch continued to walk into the water until he was no longer visible. In other words, Mitch deliberately drowned himself just like that. While elsewhere, Randall, who had finished defecating, tried to wash his hands. But when he washed his hands, what came out was murky and dirty water. Then, Randall, who came out of the bathroom, heard a crash from upstairs. Randall thought it was Mitch who was doing something. Randall then went upstairs and eavesdropped from outside the room. In the end, Randall, who was curious, tried to enter the room. On the other hand, Emily, who kept yelling for Mitch, who drowned himself in the sea. But Emily unconsciously stepped on something strange on the beach. The creature was seen moving around slowly. As a result of stepping on the creature, the soles of Emily's feet were immediately bitten until they bled. The creature is a kind of parasite that can hurt humans. As a result, Emily's right foot was perforated. Emily could only scream for Randall while dragging her leg into the house. It was also seen that there were a lot of parasites scattered on the coast. Emily's foot looks worse because the parasite is already inside her foot. Emily took some vinegar and poured it on the sole of her injured foot. It was very painful. Then Emily removed the parasite from the sole of her foot using a knife and pincers. The parasite is shaped like a worm or caterpillar. Emily immediately wrapped her foot with a bandage and took the medicine behind the sink mirror. Then she changed her clothes and put on shoes as footwear. Suddenly, Emily saw Randall, who came out of the room and dragged his body on the floor. Apparently, behind Emily there was already Jane, who had turned into a zombie. Randall and Emily, who had difficulty walking, tried to escape from Jane's pursuit. So that Jane couldn't get out, Emily tied the doorknob using a water hose. Then they both tried to escape using the car. However, unfortunately, the car keys were still in the upstairs room. Immediately, Emily and Randall continued to walk away from the house until they found another house to ask for help. But it turned out that the house was also an empty house that was uninhabited. In addition, there was a man who had turned into a zombie coming from next to them. They both immediately fled from the house. The entire residential area was covered by a thick fog that made it difficult for Randall and Emily to breathe. Then, they found a police car parked there. Emily immediately got into the car and tried the radio communication in the police car. Emily immediately said that she needed help in the seaside area. Fortunately, Emily's help was answered by the headquarters police. However, the police said that the area there was very dangerous because everyone in the area had been infected. The policeman also told Emily to go inside and close the windows and not to breathe in the fog. Then, the policeman said that the fog that had sprung up was not real fog. Emily asked, "If it's not fog, then what is it?" However, the policeman cut off the communication. Hearing this, Emily immediately got out of the car and saw Randall lying on the ground. After that, Emily and Randall pulled over at a house to ask for help. Emily immediately broke one of the windows of the house. They both took turns entering the house. Once inside, they tried to check the condition of the house. Randall also found a phone, but the phone was not working. Then, Emily, who found vinegar, gave the vinegar to Randall to drink. Randall then told Emily to turn on the TV. When the TV was turned on, there was only emergency writing and telling residents to evacuate. Emily was getting curious, immediately turned on the radio. On the radio broadcast, there was news about microbes that survive in rocks. The microbes released various bacteria that made bacteria evaporate in the air. It was also said that the bacteria was very dangerous because of its evaporation could wipe out the human population on this earth. Hearing that, Emily immediately sealed all the gaps in the house with duct tape. Then Emily found an underground room in the house. She went downstairs and found 2 oxygen cylinders. Without hesitation, she tried to inhale oxygen from the tube. On the other hand, Randall, who was getting worse, vomited mucus from his mouth. Apparently, the mucus vomit also contained parasites like the one stepped on by Emily. Immediately, Randall's eyeballs turned white like Jane's. Emily was still in the basement trying to find other items. When she turned on the light, she saw a man who was filled with slime and parasites on his body. There was also a strange figure above the man, who then looked at Emily. Without thinking, Emily immediately ran upstairs while carrying an oxygen tank. When she came to Randall, she was surprised to see Randall had turned into a zombie. Quickly, he immediately hit Randall using an oxygen tank. While Emily was in shock and confused about what to do, she saw a car key under the cupboard. At that moment, she immediately got into the car while carrying an oxygen tank. Emily immediately fled the area by car, but because the fog was so thick, Emily found it difficult to see the road, which eventually made Emily crash into a tree. She immediately got out of the car. Because the fog was getting thicker, Emily found it difficult to breathe. Emily, who was already panicked, then found a puddle and immediately soaked in the water. In the morning, it was seen that the puddle was a small lake near the beach. Emily was also seen stranded on the shore alone. By this time, Emily was infected and turned into a zombie. At the end of the scene, Emily is seen saying, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid," and then disappeared into the sea. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. Because by subscribing, you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.